Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of JN Group's Pink 40, Keeping Abreast of Your Health series, entitled A Story of Hope, Surviving Breast Cancer. I'm Kamala McWinney. I'm an associate clinical psychologist and also a breast cancer survivor. If you're joining us for the first time, this initiative is a 3-part video series where we're going to be discussing different interesting and informative topics surrounding breast cancer. Under the theme, Pink 40, Keeping Abreast of Your Health, JN Group continues to implore all of you lovely ladies, and I will say, and men, to get screened for breast cancer, especially once you reach the age of 40. In relation to breast cancer detection, 40 is where it all begins for many women, not all, but many. It is normally the point where active tracking of breast health begins, and let's remember that early detection saves lives. And so we encourage women to do regular breast self-examinations. Today, we have with us the lovely Tara Playfair-Scott. She's a marketing and PR consultant and also a breast cancer survivor. A very warm Jane welcome to you, Tara. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Kamala, and thanks to Jane for having me.
Awesome. It's good to have you. So I'm going to be talking to Tara today about being diagnosed with breast cancer and what it's like now to be a breast cancer survivor. So Tara, walk us through how and when did you find out that something was not quite right?
Okay, no problem at all. I always say this, but I had a lump in my breast, which I found, and I did all the wrong things. And I always like to encourage, what I'm going to tell you is exactly what you're not supposed to do. It's really genuinely the grace of God. I think that I'm still here because I didn't have, the ability to see a talk like this. I didn't pay attention. I didn't think it could happen to me. I don't have a history of breast cancer in my family. I lived fairly healthily. I wasn't doing anything untoward or crazy. And I just never thought about it, to be honest. So I did have a lump in my breast 5 years ago. I brushed it off. Honestly, I thought, with women, sometimes you tend to get a little bit of lumps close to your period. So I figured that's what it was. I also in the past had a couple of cysts in my breast before. So I figured it was just that. And I brushed it off is what I did for quite some time, for a few months, actually. I noticed it wasn't going away. It didn't really seem to be getting bigger. So then what I decided to do was become my own doctor, thanks to Google.
Yes, Google MD.
It was all over Google. Googling, going on WebMD and diagnosing myself.
Yes.
And I did that for probably another 4 to 6 weeks, diagnosed myself. But again, I noticed it was not going away. It was there. And then I went back to Google, but to a different site, because clearly that one was not giving me everything I needed. So I chalked it up. I knew exactly what it was now. It was just a growth, according to Google. And I suppose, in yourself, that's what you want to believe. So that's what I did. And because of that, I then called my cousin, who has a medical center with different doctors. And I said to her, hey, do you have like a general kind of doctor, that I can come to, because I have like a small fatty growth type of thing going on. And, I probably, maybe she can drain it. I don't know what's going on, but I know what it is. So, and she's like, yeah, right. Yeah. She was like, I didn't know that you had gone to medical school. And I was like, yeah. No, everything that I'm feeling is what it's matching up. So I'm pretty sure that this is what's going on. And she said, yes. In between that, I had tried to get into my gynecologist, but as most women know, That's also a feat in Jamaica to
Yes.
get an immediate appointment. So I said, all right, I'll just pop over and, you know, I already know what it is. I'll inform the doctor, you know, we'll figure this out and move on, because I actually was working on a huge diaspora tour for a client, which was coming up, and I was going to have to leave Jamaica for about 8 weeks. So anyway, I did that. I went and saw the doctor, and she then said, hey, did you do your mammogram this year? And I was like, nah, you know, super busy. I'll get to it, you know. And she was like, no, you need to go and do that mammogram. Like, no. Yeah, let me give you the stuff, go get an appointment, you know, go get it done. And I was like, oh, you know, whatever. Fine. I was like, yeah, but this, can we drain it? What do I have to do? Is that something you can do now? And she was like, yeah, you're not the doctor here, so go do that mammogram. And I went, I did the mammogram, and the mammogram technician told me to go and wait in another room. And I was like, what's the holdup? What's the delay? You know, like, I've got to go. What's going on? And she was like, no, I'm not the person that will explain what's on this to you. You know, that's going to be the doctor. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, and I went in with the doctor, and the doctor said to me, all right, there is something there. Yes. And I think you're going to need a biopsy. And I was like, a biopsy? Like, for what? You know, I really was stunned. I was not expecting anything biopsy, as, you know. And then she said, it looks like an aggressive mass. And those words were like, yeah, like alarm bells. And, you know, I was like, kind of started now to get concerned. I was not concerned at all before. And then I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And she's like, the best thing is the biopsy. The biopsy will tell us everything. And I was like, okay, can we do that now? And she's like, no, that's a different doctor. And we'd have to get an appointment. And I was like, okay, can we get one like now? Or she's like, we'll try to get one for you as soon as possible. And I was like, I'm leaving. You know, I really want to get this out of the way. And she was like, okay. And they happened to get me an appointment for the next day.
Wow.
And I went back and did the biopsy. And ladies and any gentlemen that may feel a lump or you may have anything, you don't want to get to that point. You don't want a biopsy. It is extremely, extremely painful. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It is probably, of everything that I've done, including mastectomy, it was the most painful thing that I personally experienced. It was very, very painful. And I actually, at one point, I just got up. I just got up and I was like, I'm leaving. You know, I told the doctor I was gonna leave. And she's like, no, you can't. I need to get more, you know, samples. And I was like, I cannot take any more. You know, it was very, very painful. And I think she took like 13 or 14 different samples, because they have to go, you know, in, around, all that stuff to make sure they get each area. Right. And then I left. I genuinely left the country. I left. And I was gone for a while, about 7 weeks. And when I came back, I was like, hey, you know, let me call them. Check on the yeah, see if they got this in. And they were like, hey, we've been really trying to get to you. We've been trying to reach you. And I was like, oh yeah, I was away for work, you know? And she was like, okay, could you come in? And I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, I'll come by. And I went there. I ordered Chinese for my dinner, you know, which I said I'd pick up when I was done. It's going to be in and out real quick. Because she's going to tell me, you know, what I already knew. And I went in and she, you know, we sat down and I'm there telling her, you know, about, you know, I've been working and this is happening. And she was like, yeah, okay, well, we have everything here and I have your results. And then she said, you have breast cancer. And I literally think I left my body. I don't remember anything she said after that.
Wow.
For a long period. I don't remember what she said. I remember then her tapping me and saying, you know, should I call somebody? Are you okay? Should I have somebody meet you? And I was like, I told her I didn't believe her.
Yeah.
I told her I didn't believe what she was saying. And I said, can I see those papers? I'd like to read it for myself. And she said, yes. And she said, I can walk you through, you know, what it says. And I said, no, I'll read it for myself. And I read it and I was like, wow, this is real. And then she said, you know, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do pretty quickly. But I understand, you know, you just heard this and it, you know, you need time to process.
Right.
And, you know, we can talk about it tomorrow. And I said, yes, thank you. And I left and I went downstairs and I picked up my Chinese food and I drove home. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember coming into my house. I don't remember anything. I just remember saying to myself, maybe if you go to sleep,
yeah,
when you wake up, it won't be real. And that's what I did. I turned off everything. I turned off my phones and I went to bed. And then I woke up the next day and it was still real. And then I had to try to figure out, where do we go from here, you know? And I called one person and I told them, you know, what I had been diagnosed with. And they said, okay, I'm going to come and get you. And we drove to St. Thomas and talked along the way. As you know, that's not a fun drive. And we talked and the person said to me, you know, it's a bump along the road. Let's figure it out. You know, let's approach it like we would do anything else. Let's create a plan. Let's follow through with the plan, the best plan, and, you know, just tackle it. And that's when I just had like a mind shift. I decided I wasn't going to tell very many people. And that was my choice because everybody is different. Yes. Some people, you know, you need to kind of talk it through with friends and family and loved ones. And other persons like myself, I just made a decision that I was not going to tell anybody, really. Because I just didn't want to be pulled into a state where I started thinking about it all the time, you know. So I took a while before I told my mom and my father. And I just decided to do my research, talk to the doctor, and figure out what would work for me. And that's when I found out as well, there are different types of breast cancer. You know, I just thought, it's breast cancer. And, you know, you just, you know, the ad you see on TV, you know, hormonal, and you know, you do this thing, Herceptin. But it's not, they're different types. And so, you know, I had to get my samples sent out to figure out what type of breast cancer I had. Right. And then I had to wait on that. And in the meanwhile, I started doing my research, finding out costs. I was determined I was not going to do any form of chemotherapy because, you know, who wants to do that? Mm-hmm. And I just went along until my results came back. And then I found out I was triple negative, which is also the most aggressive type of breast cancer and very common in women of color. So that also can't be treated with any hormones because it's a non-hormonal cancer. So that also, I think that part was when I actually had a bit of a breakdown because I was like, you know, so why I have to get this kind, you know, like why I couldn't get something where you can, you know, use hormonal treatments and, you know, and then I was just like, you know, forget it. I just got to figure this out. And then I told another friend and she recommended what she said, you know, a place that did immunotherapy. And I said, you know, let me get my body straight before, you know, I go ahead and I have to do chemo. I don't have an option. And that place happened to be in Mexico and I went there. I said I was going to do 4 weeks of that. get myself ready, because they had told me I would be doing 4 to maybe 5 months of chemotherapy. And I had another friend in New York who worked for a cancer institute, and she and I spoke. And, there's this thing of, do you do the chemo before surgery? Do you do surgery before chemo? So, everybody has a different way of approaching it. So I went down there with all of those things to think them through. And while I was there, as we know, when you're everywhere, I ended up running into Jamaicans. They were singing Shaggy, wasn't me in the middle of the place. And I was like, wow, okay, great. Some Jamaicans. And I chuckled, and they looked around and they were like, hey, where are you from? And I was like, Jamaica. And they're like, yeah. And, we started talking, and they were there to have their cancer chemo treatment, which I didn't even know they did there. And I decided to talk to the doctors there about it. And I just felt quite comfortable, actually. And I felt like the universe was working in a way for me. And, I called my mother, because I did go home by myself. I am a bit of I like to just do things on my own. So, I called my mom, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to stay here and do my chemotherapy here. And she's like, no, you're not. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, I am. And I'm going to give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then I'll come back. But I'm here already. Why not? And she said, all right, well, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to come. And I'm like, okay, cool. Give me a week or two to try this thing out. And if I'm going to stay, then come on down. And she was like, okay. And I spoke to the doctors, and they said, yes, I did all the same tests that I did here, the scans and everything. And they put me on low dose chemotherapy, which is not available in Jamaica or in the United States for that matter, which is it's less chemotherapy, more targeted. And you do it with, you drop your blood sugar is what you do. And then when your blood sugar is coming back up, as we know, cancer is attracted to sugar. For people who don't know that, it pulls the chemo into the cancer. So it actually worked for me. Within a week, it was, shrinking tremendously. And I just decided to stay and stick it out for another 4.5 weeks. And my mom came down, and I did all of my chemotherapy there. And then, I came back to Jamaica to do my surgery. I went back to my doctor, and, I told her I had made this decision, and, that the lump was basically almost gone, to be honest. It was just a very little of it left. And, she talked to me about, whether I wanted to do a mastectomy or a lumpectomy, which is another option depending on your stage and the size of your cancer. And while I could have done a lumpectomy, I chose not to. I wanted to do a mastectomy. I wanted to have all of the breast tissue removed to lessen my chances. And I ended up, I did that. And then after that, I just went ahead and, did reconstructive surgery, and then just continued to follow the mandates. And, I came out after and told people when I came back, and I did a story with the Observer for 4 weeks in October of that year, just laying out my journey so that other women could become aware that your age does not matter. You could be the healthiest of them, and, you could not have an ounce of history in your family, and it could still happen to you. And so it's so key to do your self-checks, to get your mammograms, to not shirk off if you see a little lump or you feel a little different. Yeah, your body the best. And you do know when something's off, because even when I look back at it, I knew something was off, but I just was going through what you think are the checks, your age, your family history, everything, right? And it doesn't matter. None of those things matter, to be honest, because even this week, I got a call from someone who's 27. And, she has been diagnosed in both breasts. So it really is something I think we need to talk about. And I'm glad that we're doing this and Jen is doing this, because I want women to not think it's impossible based on their lives, their history, and their age, because it doesn't matter. It has no regard for any of those things at all. It really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where you're from, who, when, where, what, or why. It is. And so it's important at any age to continue to be checked, to continue to check yourself, check your breasts. As you said, once you've gotten to a particular age, 40, make sure you're doing your mammograms, make sure you're doing them annually. And they say, oh no, my breast is so small, mammogram, I'm gonna squeeze them up and it can't show, No. And they also do ultrasounds. Absolutely. So, right? So if you are in the group that has a smaller breast, you can have ultrasounds done and you can have breast cancer, and so can men. So don't
chalk it up. Size of breast is not it.
Right? It's still a breast. Don't chalk it up to no. Woman think that it's not. And I think when we don't pay attention, that's when we can just run right off the road. So it's super important to just continue to pay attention to yourself, continue to pay attention to your health, and don't feel embarrassed or don't feel don't be afraid, because those are a lot of messages I get as well. I'm just kind of afraid to go, and if I don't go, then it not gonna be real. Right? It doesn't exist. But it's the more you're putting yourself at risk, based on your stages. So the earlier you catch it, the better off you are, and the better off your chances. And, just like anything else, once you grab it early and deal with it, you put yourself in a better position.
Excellent.
I know that I rambled. Talked everybody.
So many important points. And I like that piece where you said breast cancer doesn't care. Like, breast cancer just is. It is. Just, if somebody at 27 can be diagnosed, then all of us, anybody with breasts, any human being with breasts needs to be vigilant, is what it boils down to. Not panicky, but vigilant. There's one more thing I'd love to get your take on, Tara.
Sure.
For those women who are going through the journey right now, who have been diagnosed, whether this year or sometime recently, what do you want to say to them in terms of, encouragement, in terms of things to look out for, things to be mindful of as they're going through this journey?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked me that, because for me, I think just as much as you fight this physically, it is important to fight it mentally. I think your mindset plays a big role as well. So obviously you've been hit with a blow, right? It's extremely devastating. It really is. And it takes a toll on you, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and financially.
Yes.
Financially, it takes a toll. And as we know, especially in times like these where people are stretched financially anyway, it's rough. It really is rough. And it's not cheap. It's not easy. And therefore you can find yourself falling into almost like an abyss, a very dark hole where you just don't want to come out, and you end up being in a very, very negative place. Mm-hmm. And I find that when you do that, it affects you on all levels. Be positive about it, plan it out, look at what you're doing, walk through your steps, walk through everything you're doing, whether with friends, family, loved ones. If it's just you and your partner walking through it, you and your best friend, your mom, your friend, a sister, somebody else who's been through it with you, continue to surround yourself with people who are positive, who are looking at this in a positive manner. Because you can survive. Even there's a young lady that sent me an email a couple of days ago that said, she saw my post on Instagram, and her mom is in her 25th year. So it's not a death sentence, and don't think of it as a death sentence. That I think is extremely important. Also, You're going to have to change some things. None of us wanted to. But the fact is, what you're putting into your body makes a big difference in not just how you heal, but how your body reacts moving forward. So you may have heard me mention sugar earlier. So all of the great, wonderful, delicious things that we all love, like bread and flour,
brownies.
Yes, brownies and cake, and all of those amazing pasta, all of those amazing things, you're going to have to cut them out or cut them back significantly. Processed foods, all of those things, it's better to try to eat healthier, even if you integrate it slowly into your diet, and then try to build out, but try to cut back as much as you can with that. And if you're going to have chocolate, which we all at some point have a slight addiction to, go for the dark chocolates, that has less sugar in it, 70% and up. Just try to maneuver this new aspect of your life in a way that you set yourself up for, living a bit longer than if you hadn't. So I think definitely how you approach it mentally, and if you're a spiritual person, whether that means, church or just meditation, taking that time out to be grateful and living a place of gratitude and thankfulness, and just looking at the good things and not looking at the bad things. We know it's there, but we don't need to focus on it. We don't need to, just be, that's how we are defining our life now. I have breast cancer, I'm a breast cancer survivor. You're still a person, you're still a woman, you're still a man, you're still a human. And you have so much more to offer and to give and to share with others. And I think also letting others know is so important, because whether you decide to do that right then and there or after is up to you. But, it does, once you inform other people, you'll find that women who didn't even think about it, didn't even know that that it was possible for them, or they decided to skip a mammogram that year or 2 years now they haven't been, or, they haven't been to get a checkup in how long, they'll get up and go because you mean something to them. And they never thought it could have happened to you as their friend, their coworker, their sister, their mom, or their daughter. And, you'll find that they'll step up and say, okay, you know what? This is somebody I really care about or respect, or I've known for a long time. And if it can happen to her, it can happen to me. So let me get myself in order.
Absolutely. And the way I look at that, Tara, is by saying that representation matters. Because Absolutely. When I see a young face, when I see, a professional woman, whatever it is, whoever is close to us, when we see that, wow, this could happen to someone so close to me, it kind of brings it closer to home that we need to take action.
Absolutely.
So, 100% agree with you there, Tara. Tara, JN and myself, we can't thank you enough for being here and for so generously sharing what obviously was a very difficult journey, but has turned into something inspirational to help, propel others of us into action. We deeply appreciate you and we thank you for your time, and we look forward to sharing space with you again in future.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks, Kamala, for, sitting here with me through this. And thanks to JN for sharing this with everyone. It's important that we get the word out. And we know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but all year, let's talk about it with each other. Let's share, let's encourage, and let's uplift.
Love that, Tara. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into our second episode of JN Group's Pink 40, Keeping Abreast of Your Health series. See you soon, everybody. Be well and take care of your good selves. Until next time, bye-bye.